I'm Kerry Rowett, and this is the Align and Attract podcast, helping you to create your version of an aligned business. Let's dive into today's episode. Today, I am talking with Emma Walkinshaw, who I just know that you are going to love. Emma and I connected through a group program we were both a part of. And I just love Emma's story of how she's moved from being a hair salon owner to a yoga studio owner, then moved her business online and moved into Body Love, which has just brought together everything that she's been doing in other areas and is really true to her message. And I think you're going to love hearing about this surprise twist in Emma's journey, whereby she started offering India retreats in 2024, and they've been selling out in really short time frames. Let's dive in. Welcome, Emma. I am so pleased to have you on the podcast today.
Great to be here, Kerry. Can't wait to have a beautiful conversation.
I know it's going to be amazing. Emma, could you kick us off by sharing your business journey with us? Because it has had some twists and turns, started bricks and mortar, has gone online, and then has had a really interesting shift just this year.
Yes, it has. Gosh, I will be brief with the early part, but my business. So for everyone, hello, I am Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a body confidence coach and a yoga teacher, and I love working with women. I'm also an author. I've written a book, which is something that was another huge, the unexpected author, but that'll probably be revealed as we chat on. So I started my business journey at the ripe old age of 23. And my first business was a hairdressing salon. And I often say, I've evolved into coaching and now body confidence coaching. But I always say that was really where I learned to be a life coach, even though I went on to study it in 2013. That's where I really learned about women, asking great questions, zipping my lips, holding space, and hearing from all different walks of life. So that was a great start. And the hair salon business was pre-GST. At that time, I remember I'd been in business 4 years and GST was coming in. And I can remember thinking we went then from paper to computers, because I'm 48 now. So that was the kind of the precipice of moving into that. So it was very, very interesting, just even the evolution, learning about business and knowing your numbers pretty much. Because at 23, even though I'd come from parents in business, so then shifting to computer, GST, really knowing my numbers. And then, of course, I became a mum. I sold the the salon. I say studio because then I've had a yoga studio, right? So I say studio and salon. I get them mixed up. So then went and became a contractor and delivered lots of different personal development courses to long-term unemployed people. So I was a contractor and I really enjoyed that role, but then decided, so I did that during my 30s after I finished my hairdressing career, became a life coach in 2013, and then was at a bit of a crossroad in terms of, yes, I'm a contractor. I love delivering personal development workshops, but I really wanted to work with women and I had a love of yoga. So during that little process, I went over to India myself on a retreat, met an incredible woman who was a Hay House author and said to me, I've got this great course. Why don't you take it back to Australia and deliver it? And that was called the Clarity Catalyst. So I came back to Australia and I delivered that for many years out of yoga studios. My yoga practice was quite strong at that stage. So I was doing a lot of coaching with women. I was running the Clarity Catalyst and I thought I'm going to become a yoga. I didn't say I was going to become a yoga teacher. I said I'm going to do my 200 hours and just strengthen my own practice. But in all honesty, Kerry, what ran through my mind was I really am not a yoga teacher. I'm in a size 14 body. I'm now in a size 16 body. I'm in a size 14 body. And who am I to be a yoga teacher? I started the yoga journey, and my beautiful teacher said to me, "You're going to teach for me, aren't you?" And I kept saying, "No, no, no." And then, of course, I finished the 200 hours. She rang me and said, "I've had a teacher not show up. Can you teach a class?" And I went, "Yes." So I taught for her. And then I went and opened a yoga studio. So that was another, crazy, when we talk about alignment and we talk about uh, trusting your gut and going for it. So I opened that studio and then realized that I needed to bring in reformer Pilates. So that studio got moved and I doubled the size and took on reformer as well and yoga. And I had the studio for 4 years and I sold it last year. So during that time, though, COVID happened, but here in Queensland, I'm on the Gold Coast. Here in Queensland, it was most of the time business as usual, somewhat. It certainly wasn't like the other states. So yes, although there was periods, a couple of times the studio had to be closed down, everyone pivoted and went online, which that's hence how online really took off. And my Clarity Catalyst, then the workshop I ran and yoga went online. And I guess that's where the other shift came with online business, saying to myself, I don't believe I need this bricks and mortar business anymore. 12 teachers, classes 7 days a week, 5 a.m. till 7, past 7 at night, being just in case this teacher turned up, as well as me stepping in when someone didn't turn up. And I thought, you know what? I think it's time. So I sold the studio. And I've really moved in now to body confidence coaching and retreats, as you know. So
Which is
instead,
so
yeah,
exciting. I
so
love
exciting.
hearing about all of these different shifts. So tell us more about the retreats.
Yeah. So when I had the yoga studio, I added in a retreat because a lot of all the beautiful women, you're really building a community. And whether it be, of course, bricks and mortar or not, or online, you're still building a community, you're still building connection. So I ran Byron Bay Retreat, sold out really quickly, huge success. And then when I traveled to India back in 2016, I can remember being in India and thinking, I'm going to run retreats here one day. But it took me until this year to actually take a group of women. And again, how quickly that unfolded. So I co-facilitate with a dear friend who is another yoga instructor because we are great mates, and thought it's lovely to be in business, but being solo all of the time is a little bit lonely. So it's lovely to do like a project or a collab with someone. So Yogi Law and I collab on this and we put it out there. And I think it was around 10 days, we'd sold 13 spots for India. So
Which
we went,
is
wow.
just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And imagine at the start of 2024, and everyone knows that this has been a bit of a different year. And it's a year that a lot of people have found it challenging in business. I've talked a lot on this podcast about the paradigm shift taking place. I had those incredible online business paradigm shift conversations, and everyone's saying things are generally harder. So imagine at the start of the year saying, do you know what you should do in 2024? You should run retreats to India, and that's going to really fly for you. Like, it's so hard to imagine that that could have been this direction that has catalyzed so much change for you. And to sell out a retreat in such a short space of time, there will be people who are listening who've run retreats and like, that's very impressive. And there are people who would like to run a retreat who are thinking, how did you actually do that? So go on, because yes, you sold out that first retreat, but what happened next?
So we, of course, went to India and then messages started coming through. Are you going to run this again? Are you going to run it again? On that trip to India, I think it was like the day Yogi, Louie, and I got there, we looked at each other and said, we're going to do this again. So while on that retreat, and that was really challenging for me to try and be present and not be thinking about the next retreat, like going, Emma, enjoy the moment, be on the ground, enjoy this. And it was an incredible journey. 11 days with these women, and India just has a certain magic to it. It's pretty magnificent and raw and real and wholesome. and all of that in one. So I think that's also part of the, I guess, lure to India. You're either a yes, I want to go to India, or absolutely no. I don't believe you sit in the middle with India. It's either a pull or it's not. So we said, okay, let's do it. So came back and thought we'll launch the next. And again, it sold out incredibly fast, like I think maybe in 3 weeks this time, maybe it was 21 days we sold out. And then what I just said to you, in the last 3 days, there's been a little shift. So everything locked in. And what had happened was 3 ladies, so sold 15 spots. 3 ladies in the last week have said to me, 2 have got health issues and 1 has had an unexpected thing come up, and they said, oh, I can't make it. Kerry, I've switched them out. I've got 3 more because I've had a wait list. So I've just literally 1 in, 1 out. So we're just at 15 again. I had 3 other women. Yeah.
Which is so amazing. And I find this to be such an alignment piece as well. I have certainly experienced that many times over the years, too many to count, with clients, where I might look ahead and I'm like, oh, there's a spot free on that day, or that's a quieter day. That's so interesting. And unless I needed that space with something else, so often someone will say, do you have a space tomorrow? I know that you probably don't. And it's like, it's so bizarre, but yes, I do. And you can really have that sense of the alignment, when things are flowing and things just have this magical way of working out exactly right. So what an incredible new direction for you.
So wonderful. So very joyful. And I feel like it's a great, what would you say, a little additional piece to my coaching and my business. It's great to have a retreat, without a doubt. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy, a lot of people, I guess, would say, oh, gosh, 11 days away with 15 women, could you do it? However, I mean, I love that. So for me, it's with ease and flow and immense amount of, I guess, joy. It's very joyful. Yeah.
Which is so great. And again, speaks to that alignment as well. When you lean into your natural strengths, you can end up doing things that for someone else would be incredibly challenging. And it's not easy to do. It's not something that everyone could just decide, oh, that sounds great, I'm going to do that as well. There actually has to be that true alignment. And that's why it's easy for you.
Yeah, you're right, Kerry. It's not easy, but it comes with ease. Like,
yes.
It's definitely not easy, but it comes with ease. Like, there's a certain flow and joy there that is it's wonderful. Yeah.
It's the right kind of challenge for you. So one of the threads I want to pick up on here is this shift in your identity that has taken place over time, and particularly around the body, love. Like you spoke about how that was seeded when you were hairdressing. And I'm sure many of us have that really close relationship with our hairdresser, where you do talk with them quite intimately, and it's continued to shift and evolve over time for you, and has come with this much greater degree of acceptance. So when you can speak more to that, how much of that identity shift was organic, and how much of it did you need to or choose to really lean into?
I feel when I started to teach yoga, first of all, getting over my own body image or body acceptance, standing in front of a room and teaching yoga. And then how many women would come to me at the start of a class and apologize for their body? I'm not as thin as I used to be. I'm not as flexible. I could be fitter. All of these things that I would hear, I've just this, that, my belly's a bit bigger. I feel, all of these things. And I thought to myself, gosh, I'm actually not alone here. I'm looking at these incredible women and how they see themselves. I started to realize how our perception and our distortion of our body is really quite screwy. And it made me think, gosh, my work is even more important in the world for me to step out in a size 16 body, and which is technically a mid-sized body, whereas in my mind pre 2018 teaching yoga and being around so many women, I thought that I was huge. I thought that I was, just that distortion. And then Kerry, looking at the statistics around women, and literally 4% of women think they're beautiful. I know that to be so not true when I step in. And of course, it's very subjective. What is beauty? It's very subjective. But being in a yoga room and seeing women's bodies, how someone would come into a yoga class and they would blow their own mind. Often they would come to yoga and then be able to do a pose that they never knew that they could do. They would start to gain trust in their body. And then, some other bodies that you would think that could do things couldn't. So it just goes to show everyone is unique. Everyone, and look, everyone knows this, but when you actually witness it and see it, that was the journey of my own body acceptance to now really be quite open about it and be almost proud, well, not almost, proud of the body I'm in, as opposed to what it used to be, the old Emma. So I feel like that's the evolution. And then that plays out into business, because then you are more confident to say, I'm taking a group of ladies to India. Who's coming? I feel like there's, in that own journey of acceptance and being comfortable in the body that I'm in, flows out to many other areas of my life. And I know that probably sounds very simple, but it's it's simple, but it's not, right?
Totally. And there's so many pieces to that as well, because there's feeling comfortable to take up space, feeling comfortable to be seen by your students or by your clients, and being comfortable with increased visibility, having the photo shoot, showing up live online, and things like that, running the retreat to India. When you're feeling blocked around your perception of how it is that you look, you're holding yourself back from so much more than that, aren't you?
Yeah, without a doubt. And that is that identity. Like when we speak about identity and taking that new next version of yourself and accepting that and being able to fully accept it. It's not, it's not easy, but if you can, I think it's incredible for your business. Pretty much.
Absolutely. And the other identity thread I'd be interested to pick up here is that you've moved through several different kinds of businesses, which I'm sure came with differing identities, like that identity of the hairdresser, and then the identity of the yoga studio owner, and the identity of that person who teaches the clarity catalyst. Has there been any challenges in stepping out of those identities?
Yes. Often you feel, this has been my thing. Often I felt like, oh gosh, people are thinking, is she changing again? It's not changing. It's an evolution. You're evolving and you're growing and you're expanding, and in many ways stepping into more of who you are. And if I think about, like I said, what my role really was as a hairdresser, I've not really changed what I do. I inspire and I empower women. I hold space for them. I listen. I create beautiful experiences for them. I used to say when I was a hairdresser, I'm keeping Australia beautiful. I still feel like I do that. Like I still feel like I'm contributing to a woman's sense of self and making her feel good about herself. So I feel like even though, let's say, my uniform or my coat has changed, I feel like I still essentially do what I did as a hairdresser.
I love that. And I think there is something in that, no doubt, for everyone who is listening as well, especially if you have had these various iterations of, your identity in your career, which might be through your work and it might be through different iterations within your actual business. And in some cases, it may look like you have done different things or you have pivoted. But then, as you say, at the essence, what is it that you are really doing? And when you find that, I think you get to feel more integrated within yourself. And
Yes.
then that flows out, and you are not kind of carrying, I guess it's almost like a sense of shame that I hear from women sometimes of, I'm changing and people aren't going to like that. And thinking about it in terms of the evolution, but equally being able to name the threads that are at the heart of what it is that you are doing, I think that is really impactful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's a honing of that skill. I feel like when you can accept what your, do we want to call it dharma, your purpose, whatever we want to call it, or even that beautiful golden thread, what is this thing that I actually bring to the world? What is my gift and talent? I feel like if you can kind of name it and look at the way you've still been that in each role and knowing that you are just getting better at it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm reflecting, I can really see the thread for myself. So I'll share because it might help
Mm.
you to find your own thread, just to hear another example of that. So I was a primary school teacher, and then I was a kinesiologist as my primary role. And these days I describe myself as an intuitive business energetics mentor. And I specialize in working with business owners and have done for some time. But if I look at the thread, it's really around unlocking potential and helping people to move towards a goal, helping people to achieve something that they have not yet been able to achieve by themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So
See
super
how that,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, you can see that thread. And so the other thing that you have done here, Emma, is that you have evolved your own body of work. So you had the Clarity Catalyst, which you said was a program that you learned and you brought into your studio. So was it at one point that you felt like, I have outgrown this? Or what was it that you were feeling that caused you to feel like, I know that it is time for me now to create my own body of work and to step into this next vision, this next mission?
Even though the Clarity Catalyst, I had over 200 women come through that. Wonderful. However, those women it would always be from word of mouth referral. And that is wonderful. And that takes you safe so far. But now we're in the world of online and everyone has a desire to make more impact. Each time I would speak about the Clarity Catalyst, and I think this is something that was very heartfelt and very visceral for me in my body. I could never quite communicate the transformation, even though women would come through that and have miraculous shifts and transformation in their life. I always found it quite challenging to be able to articulate it. And I also found it to a little bit, each time I would go to put it out there or launch it, it didn't feel quite as much ease and flow as I would like it to have. Whereas if I liken it to the India, launching that, even my Byron Bay retreats, launch, sold, done in a beautiful package, then ready to deliver. Clarity Catalyst never felt as the ease of that. Now with Body Love Bootcamp, this other program, which is an evolution of myself, all of the things that I've learned, as well as the incredible tools from the Clarity Catalyst. But I call it like Emma-fied it, made it more, and the word integrated. I really now feel with this course, I've completely embodied it. I know it in my core. I know it to be my truth, and I'm able to then express it in a way that is so much more easy to, it's not even, I don't even have to really talk much about it because there's a certain magneticness to it.
Yes, I love that. And again, I see this with alignment. And you can have something that has been very aligned for you in one season. So my Align and Attract group program was that for me. 2016, 100 people came into that program. It was magnetic. It was like I opened the doors, people would come flooding in, and they were getting exactly what they needed. Now, over time, it just wasn't as easy as that. And it's not that the program was less impactful or transformative. It's just that it didn't have that same flow. There was still flow, but at some point you end up asking yourself, could there be an easier way? But not just easier, because creating a new body of work is not easy. It's actually really hard. It's a lot of work, but could there be something that's even more impactful, which is an even better reflection of who I am today and what it is that I do with my clients today, or what I can do with my clients? And then when you create that, like you said, it can have this renewed magnetism. And I must say, before we go on, that my clients who have been doing this work, my private clients, and now my clients who are in my mastermind, because I have a body of work curriculum inside my mastermind to guide people through this process if they are going through that process. It's not essential curriculum. It's something I added for those who might need it. Like, these are the people who are thriving in 2024, or they're on the precipice of being in that mode of thriving and creating exactly what it is that they desire to create, which is this reflection of their strengths, their skills, their talents, and the best way that they can support their clients. So it's very interesting. And what did it look like for you, that process of evolving your body of work, of creating?
I felt like I held on to Clarity Catalysts for a little longer than I could have. Because like you say, Kiri, it's a lot of hard work to recreate again. It's not the easy path. It's a gain. It feels like, again, here I go again, changing everything. However, it is so worth it. And I think of the Emma that taught the Clarity Catalyst for over 5 years. And I think of the Emma today. She is a different person, a new evolution. And even though at that time, those beautiful women I taught, and we went through those Clarity Catalyst journeys, had a wonderful time. It served us well. But now I'm in a new season, a new phase of life. I'm now, even simple example, I'm now in menopause. I was in mother phase back then. So I had a completely different experience of life.
That's right. And I think that's a really great point to bring in here. There are all these shifts that take place. There are shifts in what it is that you have learned, what it is that you now know, the skills that you can bring into your work. There are shifts in the market. There are shifts in your clients and what it is that they really want and need. And to your point, with regards to India, it's like this desire for adventure and connection and the beautiful, rich, deep support of being guided through India with two incredible women. And then there are the shifts within you and who you are at this point in time, the season of life that you are in, and what it is that you desire to create for yourself in the upcoming period.
Yeah. And even that point of going to India and the women that are coming who want to be guided and that beautiful spiritual experience. Show India, where we go to Rishikesh, the motherland of yoga, and thinking about exactly that. There is the maiden phase, the mother, Marga, and then there is the crone phase. And in mother phase, it's not the time to go to India. It's not for most people, because you are in I call it the engine room of life. Pistons pulling, you cannot miss a beat. People need to be fed, bathed, educated, loved, time spent with them. It's not your time. Whereas now I'm in this Marga phase and my children are raised. It's time my husband and I have got, I call it the sweetness of life. It's a new sweetness of life. But then there's this time for this deep, rich spiritual connection. And this time to get with other women. And I feel like, again, if I was still delivering the Clarity Catalyst, which had a very different energy and a focus to it, but that served me really well in mother phase. And the women that I attracted in, that was a different time of life. It had a completely different energy to it. Whereas now, Body Love Boot Camp, Marga phase, beautiful spiritual journeys to the motherland of India, that's where I'm at now.
I love that. Yeah, this is beautiful theme weaving through, isn't it? This conversation around letting yourself evolve and letting your work evolve as well. So the two are staying in alignment. And I'm sure, Emma, as you look out into the future, you would have so much more clarity now around what it is that you desire to create, let's say, in the next 5 years. Whereas when you were doing the Clarity Catalyst, maybe it didn't feel like you were able to look so far ahead. Is that true?
Absolutely true. And even the timing of things, I can remember so many mornings teaching yoga on that mat. And I made the decision to sell the yoga studio. And thankfully it sold very quickly within a few months. But also my son had finished year 12. So there was this grief of letting go on so many levels. I was letting go of the studio. So, this baby that I had nurtured and come through, still in that mother phase of life, raising children. And then Sonny, he was finishing year 12. I'd sold the yoga studio. I was letting go of the Clarity Catalyst, and this deep amount of grief. Like, I just couldn't believe how much sadness and grief I had on so many levels. But it was also, and then I was in menopause, I was in marker phase. So of course, I'd come to the end of my motherhood phase of life, and in so many ways. And that was the thing that surprised me so much, was this grief was the word, like this emotion that just was bubbling out of me. And I think then to turn and say, what's the next thing I'd love to do, and taking that time has served me well, because now I feel when I look ahead now, I can definitely see between 50 and 60 many trips to India.
I
Many.
love that.
Yeah.
So good. And I
Yeah.
think for anyone who's listening, where you're in that endings phase, or you're looking at something that's really not quite working for you, and you're feeling that pull to change, and maybe you are resisting it, as so often we do, I think it's great to hear these stories that you can really experience a lot of grief when
Yeah.
a phase of your life is closing out, or you're feeling that call to evolve. But then you get to hear with Emma, and with me as well, I guess, like, what's on the other side of that when you do actually step into it. And yes, do that harder work sometimes of the clarifying process, which can feel messy and challenging, and can challenge your identity again, because you're claiming more of who you are and what it is that you know and what it is that you're wanting to do. But then you get to reap the rewards of that.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. It's worth it. But it takes a lot of courage to, sit in that and almost admit this actually isn't working anymore for me.
Yeah. And that can be it. It can be, it is not working for me, because we can get stuck in, is it working? Isn't it working? It's working okay. It's still but is it actually working for me? I think that is the key question. Emma, as we come to completion, could you please tell us about your book?
Oh, yes. So, as I said, the unlikely author. So, as part of the yoga studio, I'm moving into letting the studio go and then becoming more online. I started running a little morning practice 3 mornings a week called 21 Minutes of Morning Magic, which is just purely 7 minutes of yoga, 7 minutes of meditation with a mantra, and 7 minutes of flowetry, which is journaling. And that's been my morning practice for quite some time. As I left the yoga studio, I said, I'd really like a nice morning practice, but I also love a bit of accountability. So I created a Facebook group, and people show up with me live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. So during that process, though, before the morning, I always do a theme. I think, what's the theme for the morning? What's the mantra going to be? And what is the flowetry prompt going to be? So that's how it started. So after around 8 months, I had this lovely little compilement of themes, mantras, and flowetry prompts. And I thought to myself, I think I've got a book here. And it was purely for ease for the group when we met in Morning Magic to actually have a book so we could all follow. So it's been going now 2 years, and when was it? I think I launched the book in July this year or June this year, but I thought, I've got all these themes, and it was 365 days that I created. So I popped them into a little book, and that's how that came to life. So each day, or when people aren't practicing with me, because I go live 3 mornings a week, they just pick up the book and they've got their morning practice. And that was how it came. But, Kerry, I never thought that I would write a book, but I say that book wrote me. Like it just, because it was with the practice, how it went. And that's been tremendous. So everyone who's in the group has the book, and that's how we practice each morning with a theme. But I feel like I've got another book bubbling, which again, I did not expect. But
I love it.
To come. Yeah.
I love it. So please let listeners know, where can we find your book? Where can we find you? How can we connect with you?
So the best place is Instagram. So Emma_Walkinshaw. And the book is called 365 Days of Morning Magic, Manifest a Life You Love with Clarity, Calm, and Joy. And then I've got the website too, which is Emma Walkinshaw. You'll just find me there. And 21 Minutes of Morning Magic is the free Facebook group. So if you like a bit of accountability for a morning practice, search up the group and come and join me. I do go live 3 mornings a week, but sometimes I've been away, so I had like a week off, but there's some recordings in there that you can rewatch. But I'm very active in that group. It's quite an active group. So there's always a practice, or sometimes I'll do a full yoga session in there. And and it goes along with the book, which is
beautiful. What an opportunity. So the book, you buy that on your website, is that right?
Yes, you can buy the book on the website. Yeah, which is fab. And then
wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for being with us today. That was just beautiful.
Thank you, Kerry. Thanks, everyone.
Wasn't Emma amazing? I cannot wait to hear your thoughts about this episode. Please do jump across to Instagram and let me know at Kerry Rowett. You can find Emma on Instagram at Emma_Walkinshaw. I will make sure I've got these links in the show notes for you. And you can further find Emma at her website, emmawalkinshaw.com, and that's where you can find out more about her free 21-minute yoga group and also her body love program. I am so happy you are here, and I can't wait to talk with you again really soon.